just a general sort of thing. I've been down the shed bus a couple of times. I know some of us went to have a look. I've been down there helping out with the putting the sockets in for the electrics and stuff like that. So it's come on a bit upstairs. They've got that all nicely covered, all the cupboards all sorted and stuff down there. But, so yeah, they're making progress.
Good.
That's good.
It's good that you're helping out there, Brian. Thank you very much. And anybody else who's been down there, Dave's working on the training of the drivers and that. Oh, there's David again. Hello, David.
No.
Oh, that's a good question. Yes, yeah, I know. Trouble is, it's difficult to find out while I'm in the Zoom meeting. Hang on a second. Let's try again. So it's D. B15 at gmail.com. All right, see if that comes through for you then. Okay. Okay, all right. Okay, see you in a minute. Okay. With this Gmail contact, sometimes you change somebody's email address in your contacts, but if you've got groups set up, it doesn't always change them in the groups for some reason.
I'll say.
So it was trying to go to David's old email.
Well, I suppose the email hasn't stopped being valid.
No. But you think if you edit it in your contact list, it would just change it wherever that contact is, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, I would anyway. There he is. Okay. Thank you. I know some of you have been helping out down at Green Health as well, doing some bits and pieces down there. So that's great that you've been doing that. Thanks very much for linking up with them. I was at the Tadley Wellbeing Forum meeting on Tuesday, and Mark McDonald was part of that, and he said how much he appreciated the help from the guys from Tadley's shed. So that's great. Yeah, good link to have there. Really good. Okay, it's 6 minutes past, so I think we'll probably kick off. If anybody else comes, we can let them in a bit late. But so I hand over to Brian Cole, who's going to entertain us for a little while this afternoon. So I'll hand over to you, Brian. I will mute everybody. So Brian, you probably need to unmute yourself if you can manage that.
Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Good. And can you see the screen? Good. Right. Okay. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about computer game development. Something that I do as a hobby. It's actually a £3 billion industry in the UK, $3 billion in the UK. As I say, I don't do it for money, I just do it for fun. But there's basically sort of breaks down into three different sort of groups of mobile phones and tablets. I don't know if any of you got little games on your mobile phones. Then you get the multi-user ones, where you have a big program that runs on a big server, and then hundreds or thousands of people all join in. And then you get the ones that sort of run on your own PC or on a games console, or maybe the high-end tablets. Basically, what the difference is the quality of the graphics that you can show on a mobile compared to the quality of graphics on your PC. You've got more, just basically more compute power. How do we move on? So when you're looking at a game, oh, by the way, I'm not going to go into sort of how you do stuff. Yeah, I'm just talking about the sort of things that you have to sort of, the sort of things you think about when you're making games. So, so when you're getting a game, there's got to be an objective. You know, what is the point of the game? So there's got to be some kind of scoring system. You know, how do you know when you've won, basically? And then you usually have some kind of a main character. It may be a human person, or it may be, if you like, in a racing car game, it may be your car that you're driving around, or whatever. Then you've got your environment that you're actually working in. And then you've got sort of sound effects and lighting and special effects and all these kind of things. So there's a whole mass of stuff to think about. And then, so game objectives. So sort of, you know, what sort of game are you trying to produce? So it may be that you're just trying to escape from somewhere. You may be trying to rescue somebody. You maybe want to kill I called it Kill the Wicked King. It may be the chief monster, the commander-in-chief or whatever. You might want to free the land of monsters. So there might be like a zombie invasion. So you get hundreds of monsters, zombies or whatever coming at you. And then you've just got to kill them all. It may be that you've just got to survive for a certain time. Or it may be you're trying to collect special objects. Or, as I said, a racing car type game where you just drive around and be faster around the circuit than anybody else. And that's just some of the sort of different scenarios you might want to think about. Then you break down into 2D games and 3D games. So most of the games that you see on your tablets or your smartphones are probably the 2D sort. And then on the 3D, you tend to, because again the compute power that's required, those tend to be on the larger computers. So a 2D game will use possibly a series of little sprites, so to form a sort of a flipbook type animation. So you can see the one down in the purple square there I put around. You've got 4 little ones, and he's obviously sort of falling over dead, so he's been shot. The blue one in the middle, he's doing some kind of leaping somersault thing. So so you normally get a sheet like that with lots of different characters, and then you just group them down and show a sequence of them depending on what you're trying to display. And then you put that all in some kind of environment with some backgrounds and some obstacles and things like that. So here's your little characters down on the left hand side, and he's got to get to the padlock on the right hand side, and then he's got all these various obstacles in the way. I mainly focus on playing, or not playing, but actually just writing 2D games. I don't actually play a lot of games. I'm not really much of a game player. I'm more interested in just the development side. But if you've got in a 3D situation something simple like a cube, it's actually made up of triangles. So if you look on the bottom left hand, I don't know whether you can all see that, the blue line going diagonally, that's one of the triangles that makes up one side of the cube. So a whole cube like that is made up of, what is it, 8 sides, so you've got 16 triangles. But then if you've got something like a big monster, like we're seeing on the right hand side, you can see there all the little, can you see all the little triangles that sort of make up around his face? And every time that monster moves, all those little triangles are moved across the screen, and then the face is superimposed on top of that mesh. Now, that requires, that's what I'm saying, it requires quite a lot of computing power to be able to work out where all those triangles have moved to, and so that's why we tend to need the higher power computer for a 3D game. Then you get sort of 2 different styles of game, and what they're trying to break down in terms of what we call third person. And with a third person game, you are standing behind the player. So you have a character of some sort, and you're standing behind, and you get a third person view. And then they tend to have sort of like weapons, and basically what happens is that you, with your keyboard or your game controller, you move the character, and then the camera follows behind the character. If you've got a racing car game, then you have effectively a camera fixed onto the car. So as the car moves around the track, you get a view of the track. In situations like that, the gamer is controlling the car, so you've got your left and right for your steering, and forward and back for accelerating and decelerating. One thing about a car, when you're doing these car type games, you have to be aware of physics, in that you can't go around a corner at 90 miles an hour any more than you can do in a real car. So there are tools and stuff we'll talk about maybe a little bit later on. So what I mean by a third person view. So here you have, this is what a third person view would look like. So you are the character with the red helmet and the armor, and you can see that sort of fearsome looking characters going to come and attack you in some way, and you've got a sword to defend yourself with. It may be that you start the game with no weapons and you have to go and find a weapon. It may be you can upgrade weapons as you go through. As the monsters get more fearsome, see that one there, he's got a big two-handed axe thing there. You know, he's going to be quite tough. A first-person game, you tend to have what we call ranged weapons, because you're getting a view. I'm going to go forward and then come back, I think. So you get what I call a first-person view. You just basically, you see your weapon and your targets. Let's go back. So you will have some kind of maybe a pistol, a machine gun, a flamethrower. But the actual character that you're playing is usually not visible. All you see is the weapon, and sometimes you see the arms, but usually just the weapon. So you just get a sort of like the view that you would see as a person. So I mean that's just so you just see the gun, and then you see these objects. Now, when you're doing all these games, there's obviously quite a lot of stuff going on, and what you work in is what they call a game engine. So there's a lot of stuff that is done for you, and so the game engine provides a workspace, an environment, and tools that you need to develop a game. So in the same way as like, if you're writing letters, you use a word processor, and that's got tools to make font sizes and spell checkers and things like that. You know, tools that help you write a letter. When you're doing a game engine or doing a game, you use a game engine that provides you with a set of tools that you would need. And the object of the game engine is to try and simulate things that would happen in a real world. If you get too fanciful, particularly when you're doing with the 3D, you need to stay within what people would expect. So if you ask your character to run, you wouldn't expect him to be able to run at 500 miles an hour. You know, you would expect him to, you know, move at a walking or running, you know, a human walking running speed. If he jumps in the air, you know, he can only jump a certain amount. Things like that. As I said, if you're driving one of these car games, going around the corner, you know, if you go around the corner too fast, you will slide and spin off and possibly roll over, like Tiger Woods did. So for this all to happen, everything that's in your world has a position, and in a 3D world, that position is of X, Y, and Z. So left, right, forward and back, and up and down. We can also rotate. Now, most people, when you know, like when you're walking along, you can you rotate around what we call the y-axis. You would rotate around the vertical axis. You know, you turn left or right. And there's, I guess if you do somersaults, you're rolling around the x-axis, and if you're doing cartwheels, you're spinning around the z-axis. So that all has to be sort of thought about. And the other thing is that we scale. Now, the X, Y, and Z scale, so you can make things bigger and smaller. And this is particularly when you're getting objects from different sources. There may not all be consistent sizes. So, you know, if you build in a model of a house, go back to that picture of the house. Yeah, the house. So if you look at the various objects there, you know, your character has got to look as if he can go through the door. Yeah? So if your building was too small, you know, it wouldn't look right. Likewise with your trees. Trees tend to be taller than a house. So you need to make sure everything looks in scale. There are several free game engines out there. I don't know if any of you have heard of any of these, but the one that I use is the one called Unity. It's quite powerful, and the main thing about it is that there are lots of free assets and free learning resources. So YouTube and stuff like that. The Unreal Engine is very powerful. It's a little bit more difficult to learn, and then there's this one here for real sort of thing. Now, to say the Unity one, and I think probably the same with the others, they are free to start with, and until you start making money. If you start earning money from a game that you've developed, then you have to start paying them, which I think is fair. So this is what the Unity would look like. So on the left-hand side, you get an overview there of all the objects that you've got in your game. This here is just sort of some different cubes and stuff like that. And on the right-hand side, you've got or in the middle there, you've got what is the actual view that the player would see when he's playing the game. And so some of the objects that are on the left-hand side are not visible. The other thing is, like, see the two red cubes. Those two red cubes are actually the same size, but on the view from the player, one of them looks smaller than the other, and that's to give you the perception of depth. So if you were to move forward, you would see, if you walk past the first one and you walk up to the second one, you would see that it is the same size. And then on the right-hand side, there's all sorts of stuff that, I don't know whether you can see it on the screen there, but you've got, say, position and scale and rotation. I don't know whether it's fairly small. I don't know whether you will be able to see it. And then there's various other stuff that you, information that you get about it. So there's all sorts of things that go on when you're generating a game. So you want some kind of terrain that you want to work in. Like we saw some grass and some trees and things. Then you want to be able to move your characters around, animate, what they call animation. And I said with the 2D games, all you're doing is just showing one little picture on top of another. When it comes to a 3D game, much more complex. But the way it works is that there's a kind of an imaginary skeleton inside the model. So if you imagine a human, it assumes, for a human, it assumes you've got hips and thighs and upper leg and lower leg and feet and spine and head, and basically an animation is moving individual points. So if you sort of move your arm around, it's rotating the shoulder joint. If you or you move your wrist or whatever. So what an animation is a series of positions and rotations for every element in this imaginary skeleton. Now, creating those is quite complex and quite difficult. And then you'd probably want something for idle, when you're standing still. You just sort of sit there and look around or hum a tune or something. And then walking forward, walking backwards, run. If you've got somebody chasing you, you might want to be able to run away from them. Some kind of a attack animation, and then the die. So if you kill your enemy, you want him to fall over. And then you've got sort of things like physics, where we can sort of detect things running into each other, and you've got gravity, so that if you throw something up in the air, it will fall down to the ground. So again, all this kind of stuff is all done within the game engine. And you've got lighting. So when you've got to make things look better, you know, you can put lights in there, and the game engine will then generate shadows for you. So let's go back quickly back. Just about see it there, but I think it was this one. Yeah, you see there on that orange box, there's a shadow. On the red box there's a shadow. On the blue box, sorry, on the other red box, the shadows generated there. That's because, and if you look at the actual cube, that red cube, if you look, the right hand side of it is lighter than the face to you, because I've got a light positioned over on the right hand side, and it's casting a beam. Same like you can see it again. You can see it on the orange cube. The one on the right, the face, right hand face, is brighter than the face towards you. So, and that's all you do is you just say, I've got a light here, and the game engine works out what the shadows would be. And then as those objects move around, the shadows move with them. So again, there's a lot of computing going on there in the background, trying to work all that kind of stuff out. Oh yeah, here we are. Look, I've forgotten I got this one. So the same thing on the, you can see here, yeah, here on the left hand side, the light is obviously on the left of the screen, and then on the picture on the right hand side, we can see the bright sunshine in the background, and that's casting the shadows this way. So just depending on where you are. So I took that basic picture and then added some texture onto the ground. So that makes it look much nicer, you know, with some grass on there. And then you can paint some hills. So there are, again, tools within the engine. You just use your mouse and like a paintbrush type tool. I don't know if you've only used any of these sort of drawing packages or painting packages where you just drag your mouse. Well, it does this, you can do the same thing with here. You just sort of drag your mouse across, and it will generate some hills for you. And then you can add some trees. Again, you get what you do is you say, right, I've got a model of a tree, and then you just plant lots of those around, and it just basically improves it. And then you might want to add another texture, so to create some kind of a path. If you just have a flat grass, your player doesn't know where to go. But by giving a sort of a path, it kind of, you know, says, well, that's, you know, perhaps go that way. Then you might add some buildings, again, just to and some enemies. This isn't quite right. I wouldn't really be using a gun type thing against those type of enemies. This is just a sort of show, because I think that would be a little bit unfair. You know, when you're thinking about these games, there has to be a chance that you get killed. Otherwise, if you can just go around and shoot and kill everything, and there's no risk to you, no hazard, then that's not much of a game. People would get bored with that. Likewise, if they kill you, every time you step out, then that's not going to appeal to people. So you've got to strike a balance between making it hard, but not too hard. Oh yeah, what I was doing with this one was the terrain. What I'm showing here is you've got a path in the middle there, and there's a nice wide, easy path going off to the right, and then quite a more difficult, hazardous path going off to the left. So, which way would you go? So, would you go left down the difficult route, or would you go right down the easy route? Am I playing tricks with you? Do I want you to go down the easy route because the real reward is down the difficult route? Yeah. Then you've got to have a sort of usually have some kind of a combat system. So you have to think about weapons, how you damage people. And then, as I said, the amount of damage depends on the weapon type. So obviously, a dagger is not going to do as much damage as a two-handed axe, but you could probably stab quicker than you could swing a two-handed axe. So a two-handed axe is going to take you time to swing. A dagger you can stab quickly. So they might balance out that something that is fast but less damage, it does less damage, might be better than something that's slow and does a lot. So everything is kind of it's the thought processes that you have to go through to balance these things out. Do you have weapons that you can pick up through the game? As you get further into the game, do you start off with a pistol and then get a rifle and a machine gun or whatever, and then so you have a weapon, and then your players or your enemies, and in fact your player as well, will have some kind of a health system on there. So you say, well, every time we have a fight, there's going to be some damage, and when the health gets down to zero, basically you're dead, or somebody's dead. So if the enemy is dead, so if you've killed an enemy, do you get a reward for it? Is that enemy carrying a weapon, or is he carrying some gold or something that you can pick up? If the player dies, that's usually the end of the game. But again, sometimes what you might want to do is put some health potions or health recovery scattered around the game, so that you can go along and pick those up and recover a bit. And then your weapons, you've got what they call melee weapons, where you need to be close, punch, kick, dagger, sword, axe, two-handed axe. Each type of weapon will need a different sort of animation. Obviously, if you're punching someone, you're making hand go like that, and if you're kicking someone or you're swinging an axe or whatever, so they all need different animations. And then you've got your range, what you call your ranged weapons: bows, pistols, rifles, machine guns, flamethrowers, magic spells. Now, if you got something that like a machine gun, you probably want to limit how fast it can shoot, because if you shoot off at a million bullets a second, it's going to kill everything too quickly. So you probably want to limit your fire rate. you probably want to limit your ammo. So, you know, in real life, you carry a certain amount of ammo with you. You fired off, if you've got a revolver, you fired off your 6 shots, you then need to reload, which takes you time. And during that reload time, the enemy can attack you. So, you know, you have to pick your shots carefully. You might, again, scatter ammo around the field somewhere for you to pick up. You probably want some kind of inventory system to keep track of your potions and your ammo and your maps and your keys. So again, keys, something like that. You might come across a locked door. You might put a locked door in there so that the player can't get through until he's found the key. Spells, torches. You know, if you will do sort of like a nighttime scene, you know, you're going into a dark building, you would have a torch, and that gives a sort of an atmosphere because you can only see what's in the torchlight. You can't see, but a torch has a finite time, so you want to have batteries, and the batteries run down, and then you need to find more batteries to keep the torch going. Ropes, you might need ropes if you want to cross a river or something like that. So now this one, I think, oh yeah, this is a, can you see that? This is a website that you can get all these animations from. It's got loads of them. So you can see this all doing different things. So basically what you do is you start off with your character, and then you attach, you can decide what you want your character to do, depending on what, you know, whether he's attacking or, you know, casting a spell or jumping or whatever they are. And then you attach those animations onto your character, and then you can play them in sequence. You decide when he's walking, when he's firing, you know, when he's attacking, when he's dying, and you just plays the right, you play the right animation. So yeah, just a little bit sort of more examples. You start off with this is just sort of a basic room, and that's just made up with some of those cubes. So a cube with those sort of plain color, it looks pretty boring. But then you add a material on there, and it looks a lot more interesting. Now that is still just a flat surface, but it has a 3D look about it, and that's all done by the game engine, the way it reflects the light off the surface. So then you might want to add some lighting in there, and it makes it a little bit more atmospheric. Now this one, I think. Oh no, this. I think I had to get out of that to be able to play this. Can you see this? Okay, so lots of things I was trying to show there. the lights were all flickering. Then you had to press the E key to open the door, and then you got the sound effects of the door opening. You were prompted to go and pick up the gun, but actually when you fired it, you find that nothing happened because you hadn't picked up the ammunition. So you had to go and find the ammunition and pick that up. And then you got your zombie comes out through the door. So that was just a little clip example of how you string some of this stuff together. So the other things you might want to think about is how do your enemies behave? So the default state might be that your enemy just sort of stands there, or you might want him just wandering around. And then when you get close to him, he will move towards you and attack. And then if you run away, he might chase you. Now, I came across this little wolf character, and I thought, he's interesting. So on the right-hand side, this is in the development view. You see those little red circles. So what happens is he will just wander around from one of those circles to the other. So, but wolves are pack animals. So what I coded up was that if you imagine wolf one, if wolf one gets close to your player, and those black lines are to indicate that he's got an angle of view. So if you're behind him, he can't see you. He can only see a certain angle in front. So you can, yeah. If he can see you, and you're sort of close enough, what he then does is he looks to see if he's got any of his other pack members near him. So what I've said here, wolf 2 and wolf 4 are close enough to wolf 1 to form a pack of 3. And if there's 3 of them, they will come together and attack you. If 2 and 4 were too far away, the wolf wouldn't attack you on his own. He would turn away and run, and then you could chase after him and get him. So that gives you that kind of balance, as I was talking about, that you can give your enemies behavior, but you've got to create a chance that you can get them, but they've got to have a chance to get you. So if you imagine that those wolves are all wandering around random paths, they may be close to each other, they may not, when you happen to come in. So everything here is kind of happening at a random. So you never know when you're going to come across wolf 1, because he might be, you might come over here and the wolf might be over, at one end of his circuit or at the other end. So you don't know where that circuit is. You can't see that. All you could see would be the wolf wandering around. Then you've got things like dragons. Yeah, dragons can, dragons can fly, and that again gives you interesting things, because dragons are known for their flame throwing, but can they flame throw when they're flying, or would they fly into the flames and burn their noses? So if they're flying, they can spot you from a long way away, and if they could flame throw you from a long way away, you don't really stand much of a chance. So you'd have to say, well, he can only flame throw when he's on the ground, and he's going to need a little space to land. They're not dragons are not vertical takeoff and landing things. They need an area to land. So if your character stays underneath the trees, or in the undergrowth or behind hills, then the dragon probably can't get you. So again, you have to sort of think about different aspects of behavior of you and the enemies to keep this balance of what will give you an interesting game. Then you can have interaction with sort of non-enemies. So this guy isn't necessarily an enemy. He's got no weapons. He's not going to attack you. And he says, you know, my name is this, and I sow seeds, and what is your name, and why are you here? Now you've got to figure out, is he a spy for the evil king? Or is he a leader of the resistance? So if he's a leader of the resistance, he might gather friends to help you. If he's a spy for the king, he'll call the enemy soldiers over to get you. Or is he just a friendly farmer? Well, actually, have a look at his name. What do you think? Look at his name. Now read it backwards. Yeah. So, and sow seeds. Well, they go underground. Isn't the resistance an underground movement? So my bet is he's the leader of the resistance. So I don't want to kill him. Yeah. So you do things like that. Then I've had things like playing games in a city where you might want to make sure you don't shoot the civilians. So you've got lots of enemies, or a few enemies, but lots of civilians. So your challenge here is kill the enemies, but don't kill the civilians. I mean, and that's what you know, the SAS and stuff like that. They do a lot of training like that. And then if you've got cities, you've probably got vehicles moving around, and you've got traffic lights and brake lights for vehicles and stuff like that. So, so this is, yeah. So, so this picture on the left here, you can see that car stopped at the traffic lights. Can you see the traffic light is red? So what it would do is it will, if there's a car coming the other way, the light will stay red, and if once it's free, then the lights change green, and then the car travels off. And the one on the right hand side down the bottom there is the green character. He's got his hands up. He's the hostage. Don't shoot him. But the enemy is the one behind. So he's being a bit cowardly. He's hiding behind the hostage, making it difficult to shoot him without shooting the hostage. And don't forget, these are normally everything's normally moving around. Yeah, racing car game. So you know, you create a circuit of some sort, and then this is the right hand. This is the sort of view that you would, as the player, would get. And here we've tried to go around the corner too fast and skid it off, and we generate skid tracks and smoke from the tires, and there's sound effects and stuff like that go with it. This on the left here of this bottom left corner there that's a plan view of the map showing where all the other cars are that you're racing. The wing mirror, the rear view mirror has a view to show who's coming up behind, and then you have a leaderboard and so on. I'm not going to go into programming as such, but basically all game programming is about is saying, if some condition, then do something. So if a gamer presses the up arrow, then you want the character to move forward. which would trigger the walk animation. And it might play footstep sounds. So if an arrow or a sword hits you or the player or the enemy, then you inflict the damage. So you reduce your health. So if the arrow hits, reduce health, play a hit animation, so it moves backwards, you play some kind of sound. If he's dead, if health equals 0. So it's all about if statements and doing something. Sometimes these get quite complicated. There's lots of things, but basically that's all that's happening in programming. Now it uses a language called C#, and I'm not going to bore you with it. There is a graphical system where you don't need to learn the codes, but again, it does the same sort of stuff. And do we like spiders? So, which one do you think? So, if you had those coming at you in a game, would you like one big one or lots of little ones or neither? And, right, this is your homework. I want you to provide at least one idea for some kind of an objective, an encounter, a puzzle that the player might have to solve, or some character trait or special skill that you might have. So for the next meeting, we need something like that. So I've given you some ideas of the sort of things that I do, but what I'd like is some ideas from someone else, and that's about it really. So any questions?
Yeah, Brian, are you so you're working on a game at the moment? Are you kind of working on one game or kind of more than one game simultaneously?
I tend to work on several, and because I'm not that interested in necessarily playing them, I don't tend to get them fully finished to working, because if you're doing a fully fledged game, then you want some kind of a start screen with a menu, and then you have the game, and then you have your sort of game over, and you display the highest score and all those kind of things. I tend to be more interested in the mechanics and be like, how do all these interactions I've been talking about, those are the things that interest me, because they're the sort of thinking of ideas, and then how do you actually implement that? So like with the wolf, that was quite a complicated one to implement. The traffic lights, working the vehicles around the traffic lights. Again, there was quite a lot to, because you've got timing, and then you've got sensing. Is there a car waiting? If there's a car waiting, then you need to give him a green and set reds in the opposite direction, so that cars don't crash into each other. So all those kind of it's those kind of things that actually I find more fascinating. A lot of this stuff. Well, say some of the stuff that I've shown today are just little things that I knocked up specifically for the show. Some of them were extracts out of real games that I've been working on, over a period of time.
So Brian, that little clip of walking through the room, picking up the gun, shooting the enemy, how long did it take you to sort of program that 10-second sequence or whatever it was?
That's probably a couple of hours worth of work there, because there's actually quite a lot going on. I mean, like the flames, making the flames flicker and stuff like that. There's a system again, within the game engine, there's tools to help you do it, but you've got to set everything up. So it generates little particles, and then you change the color of the particles over time and the size of them over time. I don't know whether you noticed the flash on the when you fired the gun. What you've got there is it's just a static picture of a gun flash. But what you do is over time, a very short period of time, you make it expand. So it starts off, we're talking about scaling things. So you just make the scale go large over a short period of time. And there was an orange light that you turn on again for a very short period of time to create the flash. So it's all these little elements that you have to sort of put together. Oh, and then you put the gun sound. You've got to search the web and find. I mean, there's loads and loads of stuff out there, but it's just a question of finding it. So you can get gun sounds and various other sounds, the creaking door sounds, and background music and all those kind of things. There's lots and lots of stuff that is free, but it's finding it. Like the dungeon walls, there's a whole website that does textures of bricks and walls and of different shapes and tiled floors and stuff like that. And then you've got to find which one you want and sort of figure it out and so on. So yeah, it's time consuming. But hey, I'm retired. Yeah, what else would I do? So I hope I haven't bored you too much.
No, not at all.
When you get people that are interested in the subject, sometimes that they can rub it on too long about it. But
yeah,
Very interesting.
that was good. Yeah, so it's good insight into it. I mean,
It was. Makes me respect games players a lot more.
yeah, I mean,
Game writers, sorry, not players.
These big games like that one, you've probably heard of the Fortnite, that they had that big competition where the winner got $1 million or something for a prize for winning it. Yep. I mean, they have literally teams of people. You have teams of programmers, you have graphic artists, you have people that do the animations. All specialist skills. What I'm doing is just pinching bits from. So I sort of find, like I say, like you find a character, say like the wolf, and you think, oh, he looks interesting. How can I build him in? I haven't done anything with the spiders yet, but they're quite interesting. Things, getting them all moving together and then say get them so they can crawl up the wall and drop down on your heads and stuff like that. So so I haven't done that yet, but that's sort of that will be at some point in time.
Just need the imagination to work out what to do with it all.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's why I sort of finished off with that last slide about can you provide me with some ideas?
X-ray vision.
X-ray vision. Oh yeah.
And the ability to fly. That's all. Two I've always wanted of ours, the superheroes. Those two. Showing my age.
Yeah.
Has anybody else got any questions for Brian?
No, it's very interesting.
All suitably impressed. Well, thank you very much, Brian. That was.
I agree.
I found it really interesting. I always wondered how. I mean, obviously, as you say, you're picking up bits and pieces off the web for the characters and walls and spiders and things. So I guess all just to provide that animation has taken somebody probably weeks to work out.
Yeah.
But it's good that it's sort of free on the web and you can tinker about with it. Yeah, it's great fun.
Yeah, I mean, they say that what you have to do is decide what animations you want to use. You know, whether it's got a single-handed or a double-handed sword or whatever, and when you play what in animation. So again, it's all these if statements. You know, if he's walking, play this one. If he's attacking, play this one. If he's got if he's got this type of weapon, play that animation. If he's got a different weapon, play a different animation. So that's the sort of the programming side of it. But I don't know if any of you've done any computer programming at all.
No.
Tiny bits.
Yeah.
I just retired from that.
Yeah, back
So-
in the early days.
So have you done anything in C#?
Nope.
No,
Last time I
no,
did any programming was basic.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's why I did most of my original programming, and then so I had to learn C# for the game programming. So, but if you've got one language, learning another one is much easier.
I'll take your word for it.
it certainly is. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, because what's the thing is that all these languages, they all do similar sort of stuff. They just do the syntax. The syntax is different, whether you need commas or semicolons or curly brackets or whatever, and the definitions of stuff. But they're all doing, you know, as I say, a lot of it is if statements. Yeah, you know, again, various tools around more complicated if statements, but that's it. Yeah, it's if this condition, then do something, and that's the way that's the way computers are working all the time. Yeah, when you're you know, when you're writing an email, it's, you know, if you press the letter A, then the letter A appears up on your keyboard. The letter A appears up on your screen. Yeah. If you press the send button, you know, it sends it off. You know, so every time you press something, something happens, and that's really what game programming is about. It's about, you know, how things change when under certain conditions. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, well, thanks very much for that, Brian. It's very interesting. So our next meeting will be in 2 weeks' time, the 28th of May. And I think I sort of indicated the other week that perhaps this would be an opportunity for a number of us just to share something for 5 or 10 minutes. So if you'd like to do that in a couple of weeks' time, drop me an email. So and just on what it is you might be thinking of sharing with us, and we can try and put something together.
Is that in person or on Zoom?
That'll be on Zoom still,
Oh, right.
I think. I guess we probably, I think we'll be still on Zoom probably to the end of June. We'll see what happens on
I
the
just want to sit
21st.
outside and show stuff, and then the weather would rain, wouldn't it?
And I'm hoping maybe by that time we might have some idea of when the bus might be able to pay a visit to Tadley as well. So perhaps, you know, our first actual physical meeting face to face might be when the bus visits, or if that's going to be delayed a bit, then maybe we can meet in one of our church halls or something and see each other face to face once that's all allowed, depending on numbers, etc. And we are getting there. It will happen not too far in the future, hopefully. And we might, in the next sort of few weeks, have some progress on possibly a location as well. Things might firm up a little bit, and then we can start to make a few more plans. Because Brian very helpfully sent after a meeting a few weeks ago now, video he found on YouTube about how to make your own, how to build your own shed, which only took about 10 minutes, didn't it, Brian?
Yeah.
Very
How many
quick.
people were there? About 100 people.
So it's a concrete base and then some 4x2s all framed up and whatever. But I mean, yeah, it's possible. Downside of that is you can't move it if you ever want to move it somewhere else. But it's certainly feasible, I'm sure. So yeah, hopefully we'll get some more news on that sometime soon, and hopefully sometime soon we'll be able to actually meet. But, yeah, look forward to that. Right, so thanks everybody for coming along, and thanks again, Brian, for doing that. Found it certainly interesting, and let's see you in person somewhere.
Did you record it or not?
I did, yes.
Okay.
I remembered to press the record button this time.
I don't have any problems if you want to put that on the web or a link to it or something.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Brian.
I just don't know which hobby to talk about.
Well, I'm sure you have plenty of opportunity over the months, David. So choose one and go with that.
Pardon?
Choose one topic and go with that, or a couple.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully when we can meet up outside, we can have a go with the metal detectors. I can beat some Roman coin to scatter them in the field for people to go and find.
That would be fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And to Ryan as well, just to show you that it's not easy. Anyway, nice to see you all.
Yeah, good to see everybody.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Paul.
You're welcome. Good to see everybody. Bye.
Thanks,
Be
Brian.
safe.
Great
Bye-bye.
stuff.